being recorded.
Thank you so much. Welcome, Judge. Again, we apologize. We were waiting for someone else and we didn't know. So thank you so much. Okay, good morning, everyone. Fellow board members, good morning. If you can turn on your video. Thank you for being here today. And okay, we're starting. Again, good morning. My name is Max Disposti, pronounced HMS. I'm the board chair, president of the Board of Behavioral Sciences. We would like to welcome you all that you're listening today to our board meeting. Today is August 10th, 2021, and the time is 9:07. This meeting is occurring at various locations pursuant to Executive Order N0821 that is dated June 11, 2021. This public meeting will be held via WebEx platform, as you can see. And good morning, moderator. Could you please explain how we will be conducting the comments portion of the meeting today? Thank you again.
Absolutely. For today's meeting, we will be utilizing the Q&A feature in WebEx as well as the hand raise feature for public comments. When the chair calls for public comment, I will display the following slide with instructions. You may access the Q&A feature by locating the Q&A icon on your screen, clicking that and simply typing comment into the text field and sending that to our panelists. Or you can locate the hand icon next to your name, click that, and that will raise your hand and I can locate you that way. We will take comments in the order that they are received. If you do request public comment and I unmute your microphone, you will receive a pop-up on your end with a button that says unmute me, and that's what you will use to unmute your microphone. And with that, I will turn it back over to the chair.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And good morning to you as well. Okay, and now we are going for the quorum. Christina, if you don't mind to take the quorum of the board. In the meantime, to my fellow board members, as you state your presence, can you also share if you're a public member or a licensee so we can go over that as well. Thank you all.
Good morning. Max Disposti?
I'm here, board president and public member.
Christina Wong?
Here, LCSW member.
Yvette Casares Willis?
I'm here and I'm a public member.
Ross Ehrlich? Ross? Okay,
Ross, he was having technical difficulties and still hasn't rejoined yet.
Okay, I'll come back to Ross. Susan Friedman?
I'm here, public member.
Diana Herwick?
I'm here, LPC member.
Christopher Jones?
Here, LEP member.
Kelly Ranasinghe?
Here, public member.
Wendy Strack?
Here, public member.
Moderator, do we have Ross Ehrlich in just yet?
We do not.
Okay. So for the record, Crystal Anthony, Deborah Brown, Jonathan Maddox, and John Sovek are absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Christina. And we're now moving to our next board agenda item, which has to do with the public comments of items that are not on the agenda. As a reminder, for this portion of the comments, please note that the board may not discuss or take any actions on any matter that is raised during this public comments sections or portion, and other than to decide whether to place the matter on the agenda in a future meeting. So I would like to start from my fellow board members. If there are any comments that you would like to make or share with us and the rest of the public before we move to the, excuse me, public possible comments. Okay, I think I see you all this time, and so I don't see any hands raised. So, moderator, can we please open to the public so that we can see if there are any public comments? Thank you.
Yes, this is the moderator, and we have the Q&A panel open. Again, you can locate that Q&A icon on your screen, tap on that, type comment into the text field, and submit that to our panelists. Or you can simply raise your hand by locating the small hand icon next to your name and clicking that to raise your hand. I am not seeing any requests for comment at this time. Would you like me to close the panel?
Yes, thank you.
It is closed.
Okay, so at this point, we can move to agenda item number 3, which has to do with future items not on the agenda. Suggestions, excuse me, for future items that are not in the agenda for next future board meetings. Again, I would like to open to our board if there are any suggestions or comments or proposal for the next board meeting. Okay, we are awfully quiet today. Okay, then, moderator, if we can go again back to the public so that we can see if there are any suggestions for future items that are not in the agenda.
This is the moderator. We've again opened the Q&A panel, and again, that hand raise feature is also available if you'd like to submit any suggestions for future agenda items. And the public is quiet as well. Would you like me to close the panel?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Thank you so much, moderator. Okay, so we're back here. I think this is we'll begin the portion hearing of today Board of Behavioral Sciences. This is the time when I will move the floor to our judge, John Liu, that's right here with us. He will precedes the proceedings, and we're going from now into the first petitioners, and then we will take breaks between petitioners and then lunch and so forth. So the judge will explain the process. And thank you, Judge, for being here with us. I'll be here watching in case any support is needed. We cannot hear you. Or at least I can't.
Mr. Disposti, thank you very much. Members of the board, good morning. It's nice to be with you again. I don't know whether you're disappointed that you don't have whatever judge you had in mind, but I will do my best today.
Not at all, Judge.
I see on the agenda we have 4 petitions for early termination of probation. We will consider the petitions in the same order as they are listed, beginning with Ms. Denise Cuellar. And Ms. Jones, if you would assist us, please, by having her join the panel, I would appreciate that.
She has been promoted.
I want to confirm a few things. First, the Deputy Attorney General this morning, I believe, is Mabel Liu. Ms. Liu, are you here?
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning. Is Ms. Liu also on the panel?
She is.
Your Honor, I'm a Deputy Attorney General, and just for the record, you and I are not related.
Thank you. I wanted to make sure you were on the panel, and it looks like that's already occurred. And then we also have a court reporter, Jody Till, whom I've known for a long time. Ms. Till, please interrupt any point that you need assistance with anything that's done. I'm sure you've had experience by now working over this type of format. Board members, today, what I would like to do when we get to the questioning portion, I will go in alphabetical order at least twice, Mr. Disposti, and then I'll go reverse order and during the questioning. I don't know whether Ms. Till needs you to say your names. I believe your names are affixed to your video, so I'm going to assume that she will be fine unless she tells me otherwise.
Judge, can I tell you otherwise?
Yes, please.
Actually, when their faces show up, then their name goes away. So and for some reason they're going all over the place, so they don't stay in a fixed position. So if you could say your name, that would be great.
Okay, thank you. And I will try to help help that that occurs throughout. Earlier, when we were taking the roll call, I wanted to confirm whether Mr. Ehrlich is here and present. I had him marked as not present, but is he here?
He has not yet rejoined, Your Honor.
So in terms of the quorum, those that are not present include Ms. Anthony, Ms. Brown, Mr. Ehrlich, Mr. Maddox, and Mr. Sovic. Am I correct?
Yes, Your Honor. Seems like that's
Thank you.
correct. Yes.
Okay. Now, I want to speak briefly to Ms. Cuellar. Ms. Cuellar, are you now on the panel?
Yes.
Okay, well, good morning. And in a moment, we are going to go on the record. And I wanted to ask, did you have opportunity to submit any additional documents?
No, I just submitted the ones when I applied for early termination.
Okay, in a moment, I'm going to go on the record. At that time, I'm going to summarize information related to this case. Following that, I'm going to ask Ms. Liu, the Deputy Attorney General, to provide a summary and history and background of your case. After that, I'm going to raise my hand and ask you to do the same, and I'm going to administer an oath to you. At that point, I'm going to invite you to address the members of the board. Please keep in mind that this board has, each member has already received a copy of your petition and attachments. And from experience with this board, I know that all of them, without exception, have gone through it. And we'll have that basic background. And it's incumbent upon you on when you have an opportunity to speak this morning to highlight those matters that you'd like the board to consider rather than go over it in detail. And the board members will then individually ask questions. Some will ask, some may not. I'm also going to ask the Attorney General to ask you some questions. And in this fashion, we'll be able to get all the relevant information and facts that they need to make the decision. The focus will be on matters that demonstrate rehabilitation since the time that discipline was imposed. At the conclusion, we'll go off the record and we'll complete the other three matters before the board will go into closed session this morning, this afternoon perhaps, and make a decision. Hopefully within about 2 to 3 weeks time, you'll know what the board's decision is. All right?
Okay, thank you.
So Ms. Till, I'd like to go on the record at this time. And we are now on the record in a matter before the Board of Behavioral Sciences. It is a petition for early termination of probation. The petitioner is Ms. Denise Cuellar. She is an associate marriage and family therapist with number 106966. This has the Office of Administrative Hearings case number 2021-070496 and also agency case number 2002-0180-00315. This matter was noticed to be heard on the 10th of August, and we are appearing by way of video. A quorum of the Board of Behavioral Science is present, and my name is Jonathan Liu. I'm an administrative law judge, retired with the Office of Administrative Hearings. Representing the Department of Justice is Mabel Liu, and Ms. Cuellar is present and will be representing her own interests. At this time, I am going to ask Ms. Liu to provide us some background on this case. This case is based on a petition that was filed back in February of 2021 and a decision by the board back in May of 2018. Ms. Liu, would you assist us, please?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Good morning. Petitioner was issued a marriage and family therapist registration, AMFT 106966, on or about June 13, 2018. The registration is current and will expire on June 30th, 2022, unless renewed. On February 22nd, 2001, the respondent was convicted on her plea of guilty of violating Penal Code Section 487, Subdivision A, grand theft, a misdemeanor. The circumstances underlying the conviction are that on December 17, 2000, Ms. Cuellar and 2 other women were arrested for stealing merchandise from a Macy's department store. The merchandise totaled $1,056.47. Ms. Cuellar was granted summary probation for 36 months, ordered to pay fees and fines. On August 19, 2002, the court granted Ms. Cuellar's motion for dismissal. The court vacated the plea and the case was dismissed pursuant to Penal Code Section 1203.4. On October 5, 2009, the respondent was convicted on her plea of guilty of violating Penal Code Section 490.5, petty theft of retail merchandise, a misdemeanor. The circumstances underlying that conviction are that on July 22, 2009, asset protection officers observed the respondent enter a Riverside Target store. The respondent was known to the officers as the notebook ticket switcher from previous contacts. The officers observed respondent as she selected regular and sale-priced apparel. Respondent went to the electronics department where she was observed tearing off the price tags from the apparel. Respondent went to the health and beauty department where she was observed attaching sale price tags to the regular priced apparel. Respondent discarded the sales price merchandise in the infants department and paid for the ticket switched merchandise at the register. Respondent was intercepted outside of Target with approximately $204 worth of merchandise. Respondent admitted to the asset protection officers that she had switched tickets on previous occasions. Respondent was cited for petty theft by the Riverside Police Department and released. As a result of the conviction, respondent was granted summary probation for 36 months and ordered to pay fees and fines. On June 17, 2015, respondent was convicted on her plea of guilty of violating Penal Code Section 490.5, petty theft of retail merchandise, a misdemeanor. An additional count of providing false information to peace officers was dismissed by the court. The circumstances that led to the conviction are that on June 17, 2015, a loss prevention officer observed respondent walking around the store and placing merchandise in the shopping cart. Respondent went into the fitting room with a cart full of items. When she emerged from the fitting room, the shopping cart was empty. Respondent was intercepted outside the Kohl's store with $417 of stolen merchandise. Respondent gave the officer a fraudulent name and driver's license number. The Moreno Valley Police Department took respondent into custody. Respondent's fingerprints were run through the Cal ID system and identified respondent as Denise Cuellar. Respondent told the officer that she gave him a false name because she did not think he would work so hard to identify her, and she was afraid that the arrest would affect her entry into a doctoral program for psychology. Respondent was transported back to Kohl's, where she was placed under citizen's arrest by the loss prevention officer. Respondent was cited for providing false information to a police officer and shoplifting. As a result of the conviction, respondent was granted summary probation for 36 months and ordered committed to the custody of Riverside County Sheriff for 20 days, 19 of which would be served in the work release program. Respondent was ordered to report to the nearest Riverside County Jail for 1 day for booking purposes, no later than September 30th, 2016. Respondent was further ordered to submit to a Fourth Amendment waiver, pay fees and fines, and to stay away from the Moreno Valley Kohl's store. When respondent failed to report to jail, the court ordered her probation revoked on April 17, 2017. A bench warrant was issued for her arrest. Respondent's probation was reinstated after she surrendered to jail for booking on July 27, 2017. A statement of issues was filed on February 6, 2018. the board adopted the stipulated settlement and disciplinary order, which immediately revoked, stayed, and placed petitioner on probation for 5 years with optional and standard terms and conditions effective June 14, 2018. With regard to her tolling history, from June 22, 2019 through October 21, 2019, therefore, the new projected end date of probation is February 8, 2024. With regard to the modification history, on March 2nd, 2020, petitioner was granted a modification of the psychotherapy condition. The requirement to attend therapy was eliminated at that time. With regard to probation compliance, petitioner is requesting early termination of probation and is not represented by an attorney. With regard to the condition of psychological evaluation, she completed that on August 18, 2018. The evaluator conducted a clinical interview, personality assessment inventory, and Rorschach performance assessment system. No additional recommendations were made by the evaluator. With regard to the psychotherapy quarterly reports condition, she is fully compliant, and that was eliminated as of March 2nd, 2020. With regard to remedial education, she has completed that condition. The standard terms and conditions, including the quarterly reports and reimbursement costs, she is fully compliant. And attached are the following documents submitted for the board's consideration in this matter: the petition for early termination of probation with attachments, stipulated settlement and disciplinary order with statement of issues, and the notification of hearing to the petitioner with the certification of licensure history. Thank you.
Excuse me, I'm going to mark the documents you just referenced as Exhibit 1, and without objection, Exhibit 1 is in evidence. Reference was made to some dates and compliance matters that were confirmed. I did not see any of those within the exhibits, but I'm going to take that as a matter of record before the board. At this time, I'm going to ask you, Ms. Cuellar, to raise your right hand. And do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you are about to give before the board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Unmute yourself, please.
Yes.
Thank you. And before I ask board members to ask you questions, I'm going to invite Ms. Liu to begin with your question.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Cuellar.
Good morning.
In your August
My apologies, this is the
18,
moderator.
2016 conviction for Penal Code Section 490.5 and for providing false information to the police, why did you fail to surrender yourself at the jail no later than September 30th, 2016?
Yeah, there was a miscommunication with the attorney there because I had an attorney that was representing me. I told him if he could extend it because I was going through some medical issues with a family member, my father. And he sent me that he was going to get an extension. However, I was later informed that the extension wasn't given. So that's why I wasn't in court that day and I didn't go in. But as soon as I found out that that extension wasn't, I went and I surrendered.
Okay. And that was about 3.5 months after you were originally told to surrender, correct?
Yes, he talked to me and told me, and that's when I found out what was going on. I was thinking that I had that extension.
Okay. And did you make full restitution in all of your theft cases?
Yes, I did.
Did you participate in any kind of rehabilitation program?
Yes, I have. I did community service for university for RCC. I also helped out in the veterans, feeding the veterans for lunch and helping with that. And I, besides doing my therapy sessions and the law and ethics courses, that was the extent of the rehabilitation that I was able to do.
Was your participation voluntary or was that court ordered?
Yeah, the participation for the veterans was voluntarily, and then the one for the school, I did go in because they asked me to. It was part of the probation. However, I stood there longer than I had to.
With regard to, you talked about having had received therapy. Was that individual therapy or was that group therapy?
No, that was individual therapy.
Was that court ordered or was that voluntary?
I did the one that was required for the BBS, but I also did it my own individual with my own insurance.
How often did you seek psychotherapy?
So the one for the BBS was weekly, and the one that I did individually once a month.
Are you still seeing a counselor?
As right now, I'm not.
Okay, and when did you stop counseling?
I stopped this year. I believe it was around January, the end of January.
Okay, and is there a reason why you stopped therapy?
Yeah, so my therapist went on maternity leave and they asked me if I wanted another therapist. I waited, and then after that, we just got so busy with work that it was very hard for me to do the sessions with her, since I'm doing online sessions with my own clients.
What did you learn from your therapy?
I mean, I learned a lot of my own past trauma and issues that I went through in my own life that had affected me, that I didn't even know how much they affected and how much they determined the person I became.
Did you determine what triggered your behavior to commit those things?
I did. I think for the most part, it was a lot of abuse that I went through, especially spousal abuse that affect me in a way that, I felt like I needed an escape, or I needed something that I could control. So after a lot of therapy and a lot of seeing in myself what was going on in my life and the changes I have made, I realized that obviously I have to take responsibility for that, but a lot of those trauma did affect me very much.
And how long were you in therapy for?
I was in therapy since 2017 to this year.
And how do you deal with your triggers now?
I think for me, just based on everything I've learned from therapy, I do a lot of my own journaling. When I feel I have some type of anxiety or some type of trigger, I do tend to write it down and kind of read it and verbalize what's going on with me before I just kind of put it aside and not dealt with it. Now I deal with it as soon as I feel triggered or I have that anxiety.
With regard to the issue of domestic violence, are you still with that person?
No. So after everything that happened and everything that I came to terms with in 2017, I filed for divorce. I was with my husband since I was 15 years old. I got married at 19 and I was with him for 17 years and a half.
What sort of support system do you have in place?
I have a lot of family support. I have my daughter's support that, she is a big part of me trying to be a good example for her and show her that, no matter what, that you have to do things the right way. You need to work hard for what you get. And that's my biggest support, because I want to be an example for her. I don't want her to be ashamed of me.
No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Liu. I'm going to at this time invite board members to ask questions. I'm going to begin with our chairperson, Mr. Esposti, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Judge. And just, I don't know, it might be me, but I hear an echo coming back and forth. I don't know from which computer. Maybe it was, yeah, I don't know if it was.
Yeah, this is the moderator. It's coming from the petitioner's end. I believe it sounds like perhaps your volume is up a little too high, so it's reverbing back through your speakers and mic. If maybe you could turn the volume down just a little, that might help.
Perfect. Okay. Now I hear my own voice echoing back. Okay, are we good?
Ms. Queller, do you have two connections open to the WebEx meeting?
No, I just have the one.
Just the one? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we can try. I mean, as long as you can hear me, I think that's good, right? Okay, good morning. Ms. Queller, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you making time. I have a few questions, so if you can help me understand. And once again, the board is now here to rehash the dynamics of what happened, but mostly focusing on the presence and see exactly where we are, right? And so in lieu of that, I mean, actually, according to that, so I was looking at the time in reading your paperwork, and I see that you know, your probation started in 2018. Then there was a toll for almost a year. So can you tell us a little bit more? First of all, why? I mean, we understand that the probation, you know, causes a lot of, you know, challenges, but at the same time, I see that a little time has passed since, because there's been a toll, and now we still 3 more years to go. I know that there was a recommendation staff for you not to do therapy anymore. So I feel like tell us a little bit more why you think you're ready to be off probation, and so that we can hear a little bit more about your, you know, your journey and where you are, and how we can protect the public, why the public will be safe in case that will be granted. So if you can share a little bit more with us.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, I know it's been a short time, but like I said, my life has done a 360, not only personally, but professionally. I did get into this career to help out people. And I think in the process of that, not only do I try to help people, but they have helped me in realizing my own traumas, my own issues, everything that I've gone through. So not only with the divorce and me leaving that on the side, but with my continued therapy that I had, and my continue, you know, me working on myself on a daily basis, it's made a huge change that I see it in myself, how I see life now, the type of person I want to be, not only as a therapist, but as a mother, as an individual. Just based on everything I've gone through, I don't want to go back to a place where I'm ashamed of myself. I'm embarrassed and I can't see my daughter in her face. I don't want to be, you know, telling my clients, you know, to make these changes when me, myself, I haven't done it. So I have worked very hard to be a better person, to be a good therapist, and to try to make changes in my life. So I never go back to that.
Thank you for sharing that. So one thing that perhaps maybe can help, I'm sure, and everything you said, thank you for sharing. I'm not here to question that, but it's more about, usually what we hear from the petitioners is because of the probation put in place, right? That you started this amazing journey that you're sharing with us. So so it seems like actually the probation has helped you to get to the place where you wanted to be in doing your work. But how is removing this probation actually helping? And what I would like to hear a little bit more about, you know, what mechanism in place you put to, you know, what kind of journey you're doing, you know, besides, obviously, we're all here to help people in the profession, so that's great. But can you tell us more about that? Because you know, a lot of things have happened, and the probation just started, really. I mean, it hasn't been much time, not even half of the time. So a little bit deeper on that, if you can.
Right. Well, I actually started my process and making changes even before I started in probation. When I decided on my own, after I filed for divorce to take individual therapy, I was already doing therapy because I realized to myself that I needed to make changes. So my process and changing was even before probation came into process. But I think my continue working on myself, getting therapy and continuing with my therapy, that has helped me out a lot and for me to identify my triggers and do something about it, not keep it inside like I did before, not just put it to the side and not deal with it, but continue working on a daily basis on myself. And with therapy, that helped me very much. It helped me see what was going on in my life, and it made me see why I was doing the mistakes I was doing. So I think with continued therapy, continue working on myself, I will continue on this path.
Okay, thank you. Your Honor, not further questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I invite Ms. Susan Friedman if you would like to ask questions.
Good morning, Ms. Quayler. Thank you so much for being here.
Good morning.
I'm curious, how old is your daughter?
She's 16.
So you had the daughter while these various crimes were being committed.
Right. Right.
And she's well aware of what was going on. If you could just explain to me what you learned in therapy about what it was that compelled you to commit the kind of crimes that you did commit.
I'm sorry.
Maybe that's not an appropriate question, but I'm just.
No, it's fine. I mean, I'm sorry. I think for me, to realize, what I was doing, the mistakes that I was doing, and that eventually, yes, I had to explain it to my daughter, and, her having and seeing me in a different light really has affected her to the point that I also put her in therapy, and she's doing group therapy as well. But I think for me, not voicing that, I was going through so much in my marriage that I almost felt like I had to do something. And unfortunately, it was the wrong thing to kind of scream for that help. And I didn't know how to in that moment. And knowing and having my daughter have to see a lot of that, violent behavior and that life that she had to go through. It was very hard for me to even verbalize that I was going through something. And unfortunately, I made the wrong mistakes, and I'm not trying to blame it or minimize it or blame it on my ex-husband. I made those mistakes. It was my fault, and I should have dealt with those issues in a different situation. But in that moment, I didn't know how to. And I think now, going through therapy and seeing everything that's happened in my life, how much it has affected me and how much it affected my daughter for my mistakes, it has made me really want to work on myself and be a better person and be, most important, a better mom for her, a good example, because I don't want her to give me the look that she has given me when I had to explain all this to her.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Sorry.
I know that this is very hard for you. I appreciate you sharing that story with us. But it's important that we know
Yes.
therapy has worked in your life.
No, I understand.
Thank you. That's all, Your Honor.
Great, thank you. Next up, Diana Herwick, if you have any questions.
Thank you. Hi, Denise. I do have just a couple of questions for you.
Yes.
I'm curious, something that was said with one of your offenses was that you didn't give correct information because you were worried it would affect your graduate school status. Can you just tell us a little bit? I'm curious when you started school, how long you were in school. Can you share that with me?
Yeah, it was when I first started school. I in that moment knew that I needed something to get out of the situation I was. So I was thankfully I was allowed I was allowed to go to school. So for me, knowing that I could lose that opportunity, that was kind of my only way out. When I did this again, I did get scared, and I did say, that I wasn't the person I was, because I knew in that moment that everything that I was working for was going to be gone. So I was afraid of the choices that I was making, but at the same time, I didn't know how to make any different changes. I didn't know in the time how bad the situation I was putting myself into.
Okay. And what year did you start graduate school?
I started graduate school for my master's or my yes, it was 2015, I believe.
Okay, 2015. And when did you graduate?
2017.
Okay, thanks. And then the other question I have is, you've been on probation for a couple of years. There's still more than 2.5 years to go. Why now? Why are you asking to terminate now?
Because I want to move forward. I want to, now focus on the person I am now. I want to continue working on the person that I have become now without feeling like I continue to be that person in the past. I think probation for me, it's kind of always opening up, that part of me that I was before. And I've worked so hard not to do that. I dealt with that in therapy, and I just want to move forward. I want to just be this person that I am now. And even though probation, of course, I do appreciate, because it did help me out a lot. It helped me, continue with the therapy, really understand what was going on in my life. But I just feel like I'm in the point in my life that I feel and I trust in myself that I could move forward.
Thank you for answering, Denise. No more questions right now. Thank you.
Mr. Christopher Jones.
Good morning, Denise. Thank you for being here. I do have a couple of questions.
Yes.
Please forgive me if I missed some information. I was looking through your petitioner packet, and I didn't see any letters of recommendation. Were those not included in the packet?
I didn't know I had to get any letters of recommendation.
Typically, those are provided by a current therapist, colleagues at work, something that would allow us the opportunity to kind of hear about your progression.
Right. I know. Sorry. I know my therapist, Glacier. He did write and send it to my probation, Amanda, a letter why he felt that I should be early terminated when it came to therapy. He did write a letter. I believe it's in the package, where he's explaining that he doesn't feel the need that for me to continue therapy, that it was his recommendation that, that I completed, that I was in a better place.
Okay. Going along those lines a little bit, I mean, it sounds like you are working really hard to make improvements and changes, both for yourself and for your daughter, and I applaud you for that. I guess my question is, as you're kind of new in this journey, why is it that you have opted not to continue with therapy?
Because I feel, oh, why I haven't continued with therapy?
Right.
Right. So, like I said previously, my therapist went on maternity leave, so she was coming back around June, July. But I had, so with the getting my clients that it's mostly preparing for back to school and the scheduling, I wasn't able to set another appointment. However, I did call Kaiser, and I have an appointment coming up with her on September.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. And I invite Mr. Kelly Ranasinghe.
Ms. Quellar, the answer you just gave to Board Member Jones is a little different from the answer in your petition. You're right that your therapist had requested termination because you saw the changes you've done in your personal life,
Yes.
As well as your growth and change in your mindset.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Could you sort of tell me which exactly it is?
Could you repeat that again?
Sure. In your petition, you write, therapist has requested termination of therapy as he has also seen the changes I've done in my personal life, as well as the growth and change in my mindset. Regarding the answer to Board Member Jones's question, you indicated that you didn't continue in therapy because of your therapist went on maternity leave. So was it because your therapist went on maternity leave, or
yeah, no, the therapist that I was talking about was Glacier. That was my therapist that was given to me by the BBS. The one that I'm talking about was my own personal therapist that I got it through Kaiser.
Got it. Okay. That explains that. So in your testimony to the board, you've mentioned trauma, you've mentioned spousal abuse, you mentioned the exposure of domestic violence to your child. The original petition you filed back in February, it actually doesn't mention any of these things. It's sort of very superficial.
Right.
Is there any particular reason why you didn't include this information in your original petition?
I didn't include it because I knew when I spoke to Amanda how this worked out, that I wanted you guys to hear it from me and for me to express what happened, compared to just reading it in a paper where it's so not personal. I felt that once you guys would ask me some of my situations, then I could explain myself what was going on through everything. But I wanted you guys to see that the work I've actually done, why I was petitioning. And this, like I said before, I don't want to just blame it on my spousal abuse, on the trauma that I lived. I understand that I was the one that did those mistakes, and I wanted you guys to consider me in that paper for what I was taking responsibility.
So that answer would have been very helpful in the petition, because that answer actually isn't anywhere in your petition. Can I ask you one more question?
Yes.
You've been in therapy since 2017 to 2021. One of the concerns the BBS has is protection of the public, and you do have sort of this repetitive conduct of 3 convictions.
Right.
What are the mechanisms you use right now, sort of substantive mechanisms to remain law-abiding?
I think for me, once I exposed my trauma and everything that I was going through, and actually not having to hide all the stuff that I was going through, and once I exposed that and I actually saw the issues that I had and how much they affected me, and me working on that with my therapist actually helped me see the person that I was and the person that I wanted to become. So my constant working with my therapist has helped me with that, and me understanding that when I feel a certain way is me verbalizing instead of keeping it for myself. And when I'm not with my therapist, writing it and just making sure that I get it out and not keep it all in. Where before I did, nobody knew a lot of the stuff that I was going through. Nobody knew what was happening in my life, and me exposing that helped me out work on myself.
Okay. Cool. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Ms. Tabar.
Thank you.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Wendy Strack. Is Wendy Strack here?
Member
Okay.
Struck, you are muted.
Yes. I see someone waving. Is that Ms. Strack? You're not on.
It appears she might be having some technical issues. Can we move on to the next board member and come back to her?
Of course. Yvette Willis.
I have no questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Willis. And finally, Vice Chair Christina Wong.
I think Wendy is ready now. Yeah, so can we go back to her first?
Let's go back to Wendy Strack.
I'm sorry. I changed the layout around on my screen and then couldn't figure out how to unmute myself. Thank you, Ms. Cuellar, for being here. I just have two questions, kind of building on some of the items that the other board members have raised. And you may have sort of addressed this, but maybe you could go into a little more detail. One is, do you expect to continue with your Kaiser therapist, kind of regardless of what happens today, or if you're off probation, do you continue, or do you plan to continue in therapy?
Yes, I do continue.
Okay. And then you mentioned earlier that you thought that, or that through your therapy, you come to understand that the offenses you committed were somewhat about taking back control in a situation when you felt out of control. What are the things you've kind of put around yourself to help you in circumstances when you feel out of control?
I think for me now is me having, a healthy lifestyle where I don't feel the fear of anybody, where I have taken, made my own home with my daughter, and I don't have any negativity around me. I think that has helped me a lot, feel like I have control of my life.
Okay. Thank you. I think that's it for me. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And finally, Ms. Wong.
Yes, good morning, Ms. Cuellar.
Good morning.
So, thanks for, just a very, a wonderful, testimony, in regarding your rehabilitation process. And so, I also have a few questions. The first one is, what is, I was looking at your employment. So who are your employee and who's your supervisor?
I work for SSG Riverside Counseling Services. My supervisor is John Garrett.
Okay. So how about Greg Lambden? So is he your
Greg Lambden was my previous employer for MFI Recovery Center. He's the one that I worked for first, and then I had a personal matter. My father got sick, so I had to leave the job to take care of my father. And that's why my probation was told for about almost a year.
Okay, so so you basically changed, employment during the time when you're on probation, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so so the place that you're working for now is, what kind of organization it is? Riverside Counseling Center.
It's we mostly work with teens and kids, and it's a nonprofit. We deal with the normal, depression, anxiety, past trauma, but our age group is mostly 18 and under.
Okay, so it's the very similar population, about the age of your daughter right now.
Correct. Yes.
So, okay, so how long you worked in the Riverside Counseling Center now?
I have worked there, I believe, since 2019.
Okay, so you worked there a couple of years?
October 2019. So it should be, I believe, 2 years in October of this year.
Right. So, so a big part of being a therapist, that we have to continue monitor, is countertransference. So I am wondering now, do you have, what kind of support that you can get, at your at Riverside Counseling Center, to help you monitor, your countertransference and making sure that, the teens that you're serving, are, that you're providing the best.
Right. I mean, sorry. I do meet with my supervisor once a week, sometimes twice a week, to discuss cases. If any cases seem similar to me or to my own story, I do share that with my supervisor to make sure that I'm doing what is best for my client, and I am not looking at this case as me, as my own story. So I do constantly work with my supervisor. If I feel a case is in any way I'm seeing it differently, like instead of being professional with it, I do talk to my supervisor, and then she would change me case. So far I haven't had that situation, but she is very open if I feel like a case would be more beneficial with a different therapist. But if I feel in any way, I constantly talk to her in our weekly meetings about my cases and if I'm doing everything that's correct for my client.
So do you have, does your supervisor know about, your personal history?
Yes, of course. When I started there, obviously they do a background check. They check the BBS to get my AMFT licensure, and they know everything that's happened.
So everything means that your criminal history.
Yes. When I got my life scan, my whole criminal history came out, and she had all the information, so she knows what's going on.
Okay. So, so I have this last question, probably a little bit more loaded. So I just want to know in your after you do all the work, through therapy.
Right.
Who was the person, before, when can you just describe the difference, from the before to now? So can you just, can you just describe it for us?
I mean, the person that I was before, I was very codependent to the person I was with. I felt that I didn't have a voice. I felt very alone and very controlled. So for me, any choices, anything I made had to be run by someone. I felt that I wasn't living my own life. I was living what somebody else wanted me to live. So now the person I am now, I am independent. I make my own choices. I live in an environment that is healthy for myself and healthy for my daughter. Like I said, I work on myself. I have identified what's going on in my life, where before I didn't even know what was happening. The traumas that I was dealing with, I didn't even know in the moment, how to deal with it or even to identify. Now I have identified them. Now I know how to work on them. And now I feel that I have control in my own life when before I didn't.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. So I have no further question, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, board members. If there's nothing else, I'd like to move to summation. I will invite Mabel Liu first. If she would like to make any final comments to the board, you may address them now.
You're muted.
Thank you. Your Honor, I do not have summation. I submit.
Thank you, Ms. Liu. And finally, Ms. Cuellar, is there anything else that you would like to add? I want to confirm again, you had no other documents or witnesses. So at this point, would you like to make any other comments to the board?
I just want to thank the board for giving the opportunity for me to say a little bit of my story and what's going on, and just thank you for even considering listening to my case.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cuellar. The board appreciates the fact that you are here and available to answer questions that they have. This matter is now submitted. We will go off the record, and I believe we are due to take a short break. Mr. Desposti, would you
Yes.
like to comment on what you would like, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Yes, I think we need a 10 minutes break. So if we can please resume at 10:17 this morning time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Jody, can you hang on for 1 minute, please?
Sure.
Ready to resume. Am I right? Is the right time? Yes. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. It was a fast, quick 10 minutes. And we're resuming our petition section of our Board of Behavioral Sciences. Today is August 10. The time is 10:18 a.m. My name is Max Disposti. I'm the board chair of the Board of Behavioral Sciences. And our administrative law judge, John Liu, will take on from now to continue with the proceedings in our second petitioner. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Desposti. I would like to invite our next petitioner, Stephanie Jean Fell. If our host could have her elevated to the panel, I'd appreciate it.
She has been promoted, and Ms. Fell, if you can activate your camera, please.
Here I am. Good morning.
Thank you.
Good morning. Now I can see you. Ms. Fell, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Now, I wanted to ask, were you able to observe the first hearing that we had this morning?
Yes.
Good. So there won't be any mystery. Before we go on the record, are you satisfied that all the documents that you wish to have in the board's possession have been provided? Okay.
Yes.
Then at this time, Ms. Till, let's go on the record. And we are opening the record in a petition for early termination of probation. The petitioner is Stephanie Jean Fell. This matter is being heard before a quorum of the Board of Behavioral Sciences. It has the board's case number 2002-016-002060. It also has the Office of Administrative Hearings case number 2021-070495. Ms. Fell is appearing on her own behalf. Present representing the Department of Justice is Ms. Mabel Liu, a Deputy Attorney General. Ms. Fell, as you observed earlier, the practice that we'll be following is I'm going to invite Ms. Liu to give the board members a quick summary of your case. The board members by now have had an opportunity to review the petition. And when I swear you in and invite you to speak, it's not necessary for you to go over everything in your petition, but rather highlight those matters you wish the board to consider, and more importantly, bring them up to date on events since the time that you were placed on probation. So without any further delay, Ms. Liu, if you would like to proceed, I invite you to do so.
You're on mute.
Thank you. Petitioner was issued a marriage and family therapist registration, AMFT 100598, on or about July 6, 2017. On March 20th, 2019, Ms. Fell was issued marriage and family therapist license, LMFT 112362. The license is current and will expire on March 31st, 2023, unless renewed. On February 9th, 2005, respondent was convicted on her plea of guilty to violating Vehicle Code 23152, Subdivision A, driving under the influence of alcohol, a misdemeanor, and Vehicle Code Section 23152, Subdivision B, driving with a blood alcohol concentration of 0.08% or more, a misdemeanor. The court assessed respondent's blood alcohol content at 0.08%. On December 6, 2006, the Orange County District Attorney's Office filed a complaint against Ms. Fell alleging violations of Vehicle Code Section 23152, Subdivision A, driving under the influence of alcohol with one prior driving under the influence conviction, and Vehicle Code Section 23152, Subdivision B, driving with a blood alcohol concentration of 0.08% or more with one prior conviction of driving under the influence, misdemeanors. On December 29, 2006, respondent entered a plea of not guilty to all counts. As a condition of her release, she was ordered to enroll in SCRAM, that is an ankle monitoring program. On May 30th, 2007, the court added a requirement that respondent attend 5 Alcoholics Anonymous meetings per week. On August 3rd, 2007, respondent was convicted on her plea of guilty to the charged offenses and special allegations. The court assessed the respondent's blood alcohol concentration at 0.14%. On April 25th, 2012, respondent was convicted on her plea of guilty to violating Vehicle Code Section 23152, Subdivision A, driving under the influence of alcohol with 2 prior convictions, and Vehicle Code Section 23152B, driving with a blood alcohol concentration of 0.08% or more with 2 prior driving under the influence convictions, misdemeanors. Respondent admitted and the court found true the special allegations that she was convicted of the same offenses twice within the previous 10 years pursuant to Vehicle Code Section 23546. The court assessed respondent's blood alcohol concentration at 0.11%. Respondent was granted formal probation for 5 years and sentenced to serve 270 days in Orange County Jail with pre-custody credit for 2 days. She was ordered to complete a 6-month multiple offender alcohol program, a MADD, MAD, Victim Impact Panel session, submit to a Fourth Amendment waiver, pay fees, fines, restitution, and abstain for the consumption of alcohol beverages. Respondent's driver license was suspended for 2 years. On November 14, 2012, the court stayed the jail sentence and respondent was permitted to serve jail time on the secure electronic confinement. On May 24, 2013, the court modified the probation to informal probation for the balance of the term through April 25, 2017. A statement of issues was filed on February 27, 2017. The board adopted the stipulated settlement and disciplinary order, which immediately revoked, stayed, and placed the petitioner on probation for 5 years with optional and standard terms and conditions effective July 7, 2017. She does not have a tolling history on her probation. Her modification history is that on January 22nd, 2020, petitioner was denied early termination of probation but was granted a modification of probation. The dependency support group condition was modified from 3 times per week to 2 times per month. The random biological fluid testing condition was reduced to once per month. With regard to her probation compliance, petitioner is requesting early termination of probation and is not represented by an attorney. With regard to the condition of psychological evaluation, that was completed on October 12, 2017. The evaluator utilized the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory, 2nd edition, the Million Clinical Multi-Axel Inventory, and the Substance Abuse Subtle Screening Inventory, 3rd edition. The recommendations from the evaluator were for Ms. Fell to continue with the outpatient treatment program, which may include random drug testing, attending AA meetings, and participating in weekly psychotherapy. With regard to the condition of psychotherapy quarterly reports, she is fully compliant. With regard to the condition of a rehabilitation program, that was completed on January 3rd, 2018. With regard to the condition of the dependency support program, she is fully compliant. With regard to remedial education conditions, she has completed that. With regard to the condition of abstaining from controlled substances and alcohol or submitting to random drug testing, she missed 5 check-ins with First Source. With regard to the standard terms and conditions, including quarterly reports and reimbursement costs, she is compliant. Attached are the following documents submitting for the board's consideration in this matter: a petition for early termination of probation, the stipulated settlement and disciplinary order with statement of issues, and the notification of hearing to the petitioner with the certification of licensure history. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Liu. The 3 documents that you identified, I'm going to mark collectively as Exhibit 1, and without objection, 1 is in evidence. Okay, I'd like to administer an oath to you. Would you raise your hand, please, Ms. Fell? Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you are about to give to the board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. I'm going to invite Ms. Liu to question you first, followed by questions from the board. Ms. Liu?
Thank you. Ms. Fell, we are aware of your misdemeanor driving under the influence convictions in 2005, 2007, and 2012. Did you participate in any kind of rehabilitation program that was not ordered by the court?
No, not at those times. Only the court-ordered ones.
And the court-ordered ones, when did those occur?
So for my second DUI, I was actually enrolled in DUI court, which ended up being about a 1.5 year program where I was on formal probation. I did group therapy and individual therapy with them. I was randomly drug tested. I had a formal probation officer that could come out to my house and search the premises. And I was required to do meetings. That was after the 2007 one. And then I did the programming after the 3rd offense in 2011, 2012, where again, I was on house arrest for 4.5 months. And I completed the program where I did individual and group therapy with them as well, plus the formal probation, random drug testing, meeting with my probation officer.
How long
Weekly.
were you in? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, that's it.
Okay. How long were you in individual therapy?
For that one, it was 6 months.
And are you continuing individual therapy at this time?
Yes. I've started individual therapy with the board 4 years ago with this probation, and I have not missed a week. I go every week.
Very good. What have you learned so far in your therapy?
Well, my therapy, I've learned a lot about, my past, my negative coping mechanisms that I would use when stressed. I've learned new coping mechanisms. I've learned how to love myself, how to value myself, how to take care of myself. She's been a great outlet just for, working through everything. I mean, last year, we were all there. It was really difficult during the pandemic and trying to navigate going through that scary time myself, as well as trying to show up for my clients. But with, that support and the plan, coping, I got through it. And yeah, I've learned a lot with my therapist. I'm going to continue seeing her after this probation, whenever that ends, because I find such value with her. She's taught me a lot about myself.
Are you attending Alcoholics Anonymous or any 12-step programs?
Yes, I do 2 a month.
Are they in person or are they virtual?
They're virtual right now just because of the pandemic.
And is this required participation or is this voluntary?
This is required.
Okay. And have you led any of the meetings?
No.
What have you learned so far in your attendance with AA?
Well, I've definitely connected a lot better with my higher power and my spirituality. I've learned that alcohol has many times over ruined my life, and it's not something that I can have in my life. I'm not a normie. I can't drink alcohol regularly. And so it's just not a good idea for me to ever touch it. I've learned a great sense of community through my meetings. I have a really good women's group that I do, and I've actually met a lot of people, other women, through the meetings that I was going to prior. So now we get together and we watch the online women's meetings at one of our apartments. We do like dinners together. We do workout classes together. We spend a lot of time together. They're a really great support system for me as well.
Have you completed the 12 steps?
Yes, a few years back, yeah.
And what step was most difficult for you?
I would say probably making amends, honestly. Having to talk to my parents about everything that I put them through when I was drinking, and all of the work that they had to do to help me when I couldn't drive, because I ended up not being able to drive for 3 separate years. So I had to get rides places and take the bus and walk and stuff. So making amends to them was really difficult.
What step was the most important to you?
Probably the first one, admitting that I had a problem and asking for help, because it's always hard to ask. Well, for me in my life, it has been hard to ask for help.
When you began this 12-step program, was this as a result of your most recent driving under the influence conviction?
Well, I had to do AA for all 3 of my DUIs, but had stopped going after my 3rd and had started going again because it was a requirement. I was going 5 times a month for the first 2.5 years. And so I've continued because it's been, recommended that I need to do it for the board, but I'm enjoying it and will also continue to do those meetings with my fellowship and the women that I work with after probation.
When did you start this fellowship?
The women, excuse me, the women that I'm spending time with.
Yes.
At the beginning of this year.
Okay. And do you have a sponsor?
I had a sponsor. I don't have one right now because she was at the old church meetings that I would go to, but I'm no longer going to those. So no sponsor right now.
All right. And what is your date of sobriety?
I don't actually know, because when I started the probation with you guys 4 years ago, I didn't know when I had been sober from, so I just kind of celebrate around my actual birthday, because they just told me to kind of find what sounded right. Like, when was the last time you remember drinking? And it was in January, about five years ago.
So you're roughly 5 years clean.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And in addition to what you've provided us with regard to maintaining your sobriety, are there any other activities that you're involved in that assist you in maintaining your sobriety that you haven't talked about?
Assist me with my sobriety. I mean, I exercise frequently, and I do that with some of the girls. I take some classes, but I also do that on my own, just to keep myself fit. And that helps me with any, anxiety or stress, which in the past used to be a cause of me drinking many years ago. So that's helping me stay sober in its own regards, that I'm taking care of my body and I'm using healthy coping to stress.
How have you changed your environment since your last conviction?
Well, I live with my fiance, and he's also sober, so neither of us drink, and we're old people who are in bed by 9 o'clock every night. And that's basically it. It's just me, him, and our dog, and we don't really do much. And of course, with COVID, we couldn't do much for a while, but we still don't do much. I'm more of an introvert, so I've got a sober household. I don't go out. I don't go to parties, even at family functions. I stay away from the people that are drinking.
Have you determined what triggered your behavior to drink and get behind the wheel?
Yes, depression and grief and loss, and not coping with it in a healthy way when I was 18, 20, and 25.
And how do you deal with those triggers now?
Oh my. I have a spa membership. I work out, I journal, I meditate. I have the girls that I spend time with. I have my family and my fiance that are really supportive of me and my sobriety. We do things together, try and take little mini vacations if I can, or schedule times on the weekend where I'm not doing anything and I can just relax. I talk to my therapist, I talk to my coworkers. I do whatever I can.
Final question. With regard to your missing some appointments with First Source, can you tell
the
us about
logins.
that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's I have an app on my phone, and I'm required to log into it every day. And I have a habit of, before, like right when I wake up, of logging in. And those 5 times, I think I just thought that I logged in and didn't. But I did test those months. So I don't think I missed any testing. So it would have just been that I didn't log in to check the day, even though I wasn't selected on that day.
Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. It occurs to me that I neglected to invite you to make a statement initially to board members. I know from experience that questioning by the Department of Justice attorneys is very helpful in eliciting information, but you may have come into today with some planned thoughts and remarks that you wanted to share. So before I invite the board members, I'm going to go back and give you that opportunity.
Yes, I do have something prepared, if you don't mind.
Not at all.
Okay. So, good morning to you all. I'm so excited to be with you today and so happy for this opportunity to come before you again and show you all of the continued progress I've made over the last year and 9 months. I come to you today so proud of the therapist and woman I have become. I too, alongside the rest of the world, experienced the pandemic and all of the trials that came with it. Although stressful and scary, I was prepared in my strong sobriety and with my support system and coped well. Using all the tools that I've learned over the years, I was able to make it through the year while still being able to show up 100% for my clients. I'm so glad I was able to be there and walk alongside them with confidence because of the coping plan I created, thanks to the help of the skills I've learned in the field and with my therapist. I believe going through this program with the board has helped me become mentally, emotionally, and spiritually stronger. And the evidence I have for this is this. So with the perseverance it takes to continue this program, I have reminded myself mentally that I am strong and capable, and I'm able to do anything I set my mind to. Emotionally, because of the board's requirements, I have met some really amazing people in my recovery programs that have been helpful to my emotional stress and have always been there when I needed support or a friend to vent to. I have also emotionally learned a lot through therapy and tried to practice what I preach in my own life. If things got hard, I fought harder. If I needed someone, I have learned to ask for help. My partner and family have also been amazingly supportive through this whole process and are there cheering me on in my sobriety from the sidelines. Spiritually, I've become more aligned with my higher power and have practiced connecting with it on a regular basis, which helps me feel more supported in my life. My morality and integrity have only strengthened over the last 4 years, and I am thankful for that. I also spend a lot of time and energy to take good care of myself so that I can be my best self for my clients. I have been using fitness as a great means of self-care and a de-stressor. I go on long walks, I go to the gym, I do yoga and Pilates, and even have friends from my program I go to classes with. I've been very passionate about my ability to practice as a licensed therapist, thanks to you all allowing me to earn this privilege, and have been educating myself even more beyond a CEU class here and there. I am training to become a certified professional trauma therapist, and I'm studying EMDR therapy as well, investing in myself and investing in being able to help as many people as I can with trauma. I have been able to focus in the last 2 years on finding my niche and have transferred into the eating disorder program at the counseling center that I work at. I enjoy working in that population plus with individuals that have experienced trauma. So these are the areas I have been professionally focusing on. I absolutely love what I do, and I'm lucky to have known what I've wanted to do since high school. I take my work and career very seriously, and I just want to repeat to you the point that I may have made almost 2 years ago, that I would never, ever, ever do anything in the future to jeopardize my ability to practice as a licensed therapist. I have gone through too much and have done a lot for the board to ever throw it away. This I can be 100% certain of. I know the last time I was with you that I seemed to prove my recovery well, but it was just the matter that I hadn't been monitored for enough time. I'm hoping that this time around, over 4 years into my probation, that enough time has passed for you to be comfortable with completely dropping my probation so that I can move forward in my life and leave all of this behind me while bringing all of the wonderful things that I have learned personally and professionally, so that I can continue to be the passionate and professional therapist that I am until I retire, hopefully when I'm 80. So this has been my lifelong goal, and I want to thank the board again for this opportunity to prove my professionalism and worth as a therapist, and thank you for allowing me to achieve my dream. A few more bullet points as evidence that I'm recovered. So I've been sober for years without relapse during monitoring. I have completed all of the things that were listed prior: the psychological evaluation, the treatment program, an educational class, meetings, and random drug testing, which started at 5 times a month and is now once a month. I'm mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually improved in all areas. I'm very engaged in my recovery program and have close, supportive, sober program friends that I spend time with and work regularly with in our program. We do sober outings, we read through the big book, and we watch meetings together online. Because of my probation at the board, I'm monitored at work, and all employees are subject to random drug tests, so I will continue my sobriety to keep my job. And I've invested thousands of dollars on additional education for certification and would never jeopardize wasting that money by doing anything unprofessional or unethical. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to invite board members once again to ask questions. I think I'll go alphabetical one more time, and then on the last two petitions, we'll do reverse alphabetical. So with that being said, I invite first our chairperson, Mr. Disposti.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor. And Ms. Phelps, it's so good to see you again.
You too.
Thanks so much. It's been a pleasure meeting you here, and because of you share so much, actually, because we have an amazing DOJ today asking all the right questions. Actually, I don't have any further questions. So, Your Honor, I'll pass to my fellow board members, but I just wanted to thank Mrs. Phelps to be here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. If I'm not mistaken, I believe Mr. Ehrlich is here.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Appreciate it. Good morning, Ms. Fell. Thank you again for being here again. Just one question. Have you expunged any of your previous convictions?
No.
Okay. I'm just curious to know if there's any reason.
Because the only people that can see it, whether or not it's expunged, are you, and I figured you already saw it, so why expunge it?
Okay.
I guess I could, but I don't know.
And you are off all court probation, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, since 2017.
Okay. I have no further questions. Thank you again for sharing.
Thank you. Absolutely.
And next, Susan Friedman, please.
Good morning, Ms. Phil. Thank you so much for being here. I just have one simple question, and that is, do you think you could have done this without the requirements for probation, without being on probation from the board?
Could I have done it? Yes, but would I have done it? Probably not. So I'm grateful that you all intervened, because this has been a wonderful lesson that I will never forget with everything that I've learned.
So when you have patients or clients who may have somewhat of a similar problem, how do you deal with that?
How do I deal with them if they also struggle with alcoholism or drug addiction or something? I treat them, as if I would treat my mental health clients, and I meet them where they're at. But, with my own experience and not sharing too much information with them, I feel like I'm able to help because I understand what it's like on both ends of the spectrum of being, the client with the struggles with alcohol or addiction, and then also on the therapy side, and meeting those, together.
I mean, do you think that they can do it? Because you were very open that this program helped you to do it, helped you to make the changes. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if how you convey that to clients, that they can do that on their own without the support of something like this board behind them, making certain requirements so that you have to follow through.
Oh, I see. Many of the clients that I see are partially invested in their own sobriety and want to do it without having to do it. So they come already prepared to do some of the work. I think they might just struggle with how to do it or where to start. and what kind of support they can get, what's out there. So I help to educate them and make a plan with them of, you know, I really recommend meetings if you want to go. That's great support. The treatment center that I work at, we do IOP, intensive outpatient, and PHP programs for chemical dependency. So the people that I work with come in there and they're already getting that additional support too through our program.
Okay, that's great. And I'm really, really happy to hear that you're trying to do the EMDR training too.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for being here. And
Thank you.
Thank you for your recovery.
Thank you.
Ms. Diana Herwick.
Hi, Stephanie. I just have one quick question, and I think just for my own clarification. You mentioned 3 ages, 18, 20, and 25. Are those how old you were during those 3 offenses?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. That's it for me.
And Christopher Jones.
Hi, thanks for being here today. The only question I have, and I think I know the answer to it, is in your packet. I didn't see any letters of recommendation, so I was curious as to why those weren't included.
I did send one from my therapist, so I'm not sure why that wasn't included. She did a letter of recommendation for me. It wasn't in there.
It's possible I missed it. That's not, that would not surprise me, but I didn't see it in there. No.
Oh yeah. Yeah, at the first hearing, I think I did like 10 letters from coworkers and my boss, and I didn't want to do that again. I figured, you know, the idea still stood of how I am as an employee.
That was my assumption, was that because this is the second time around, that you probably have included it prior.
Yeah, but I definitely did an updated one for my therapist. So I'm sorry if you didn't get that.
All right, thank you. No further questions.
To that point, I don't know that I have that in the packet. I just went through it really quickly. I think it's important that board members have that. If I guess I'm speaking now more to board staff. If there's some way that could happen, let's make it so, if possible, even today, so that board members have that with them. All right.
My probation monitor, Amanda, might have it, but I'm not sure.
All right. Thank you.
Yes.
Let's see. I'm forgetting myself. Diana Herwick. Did I already call your name?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Thank you for forgiving me. Christopher Jones. That was the other name I called.
Yes, Judge. Correct.
Okay. Then we're speaking. Mr. Kelly Ranasinghe, please.
I have no questions, but the letter isn't in my packet either. And if someone could upload it to Box, that would be very helpful.
We'll make a note of that. And next, Wendy Strack.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Fell, thank you for being here. I don't have any questions.
Thank you.
And Yvette Willis.
Thank you, Your Honor. Stephanie, I was just wondering, you had mentioned that you find a lot of support and security at home with your partner and your dog, and I think that's great. But you also mentioned that he was sober. So, you know, having that closeness, and do you guys have a plan if one of you should kind of go back, you know, back to maybe falling in that, you know, downward spiral? Do you guys have a strategy, a plan if one of you is struggling, or does he rely on you for support? Does he have his own support system outside of you? And I know you do, because you talked about your friends and your parents and all the new things that you're doing, but I just wonder, when things get tough, do you guys have just a plan?
Yeah, that's a good question. We would do our own individual therapy, and then I would make him do couples therapy with me to kind of work on, you know, what's happening, are you struggling? Can I help you in any way? But also, this isn't going to work for me and my sobriety. So what can we do to kind of get back on the same page?
Okay.
We're getting married this year, and so I'm, committing to him forever. So he has to, support me, and I have to support him, and yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That's important. So appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. And finally, Chairperson Wong, please. I should say assistant or co-chair, or is it vice chair? I don't know.
It is fine. It is fine. Vice chair, vice person. Thank you so much, Ms. Bell. So nice to see you again.
Nice to see you.
Yes. So, glad you're looking happier. So I suspect that life must be pretty good for you. Yeah. And congratulations of, your big life change.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's going to be very exciting. So, so I just have a couple of questions.
Sure.
And so, since I was there last time, 2020, when you got the result that when you got the decision back that your termination was denied. And and yet your some of the terms and conditions were modified. So tell us about how you responded. What was that that reaction that you had, and how did you deal with that?
I mean, I was a little disappointed, but I had kind of figured that I wouldn't get the probation dropped because it was only 2.5 years, I think, at that point. But I was hopeful. So I just, regrouped, talked through it with my therapist, and she said, "Oh, I'm sorry that it didn't happen, but we'll just keep going. We'll keep doing our thing." And so that's what I've been doing, and I've tried to make more connections through my recovery, and not just, going to the meetings because I have to, but actually incorporating it in my life. And doing the trainings. I kept going, and then the pandemic hit, and then that was more of a focus, rather than like, oh darn, but I just swiftly moved through.
So, so sounds like, this particular experience of dealing with disappointment, that you kind of sail through.
Yeah.
You really did a good job in handling that. So wonderful. So now the other thing is that, you have done quite a number of years of, trying to, recover from alcoholism. And so, so what is your biggest takeaway? After you've done all that, what is your biggest takeaway?
That I cannot touch alcohol ever again for the rest of my life.
Okay. Right.
And that I am stronger than I thought I was.
Yes. Yes, very important. So, as a therapist, we would love, to have the more, not just about, that managing the symptoms and knowing what not to do, but also believing what you can do. So really encourage you to, to focus on, the power within you, that you can do anything, when you believe in yourself. And of course, in that sense, it's believing that alcohol is your enemy.
Yes.
Never touch it. So, wonderful. So my last question. So, so you said that you want to work until 80. So what is your focus? What would you, what are the populations that you like to work with, or, what is your passion?
Trauma therapy and eating disorders, and teenagers to young adults.
Okay.
Struggling with these and or depression, anxiety.
Sounds like, the journey that you have been through.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so you want to use yourself as the resources, as the role model.
Yes.
Okay, so make sure that, again, monitor your countertransference.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay, I have no further question, Your Honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. At this time, I want to just say on the record, we have had references now and also requests from a board member for that letter, that updated letter. And when we go off the record, I want to make sure that that happens. So I'm going to pass that on to Mr. Disposti. Perhaps you could have off the record discussions with board members or others to make sure that that happens before the board goes into closed session. Having said that, Ms. Liu, you have no objection to that letter once received being marked as Exhibit 2?
I do not, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
And can I interject, Your Honor?
Yes.
We checked and double checked the actual submission, and there was no letter that had been submitted that was being referred to. So just wanted to clarify that.
All right. Does that mean it can happen, or can we still have that provided to the board?
It wasn't submitted with the petition, so it doesn't exist technically. So.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Does that change anything in terms of whether there are objections either by board members or Ms. Liu?
Your Honor, I think if we can keep the record open for 24 hours to allow the petitioner to submit that to her probation monitor and to request that the probation monitor provide it to everyone who's here.
I'm thinking more in terms of 1 hour, frankly, because it doesn't make any sense to have it submitted if the board doesn't have a chance to read it when they go into closed session. Of course, the board can opt to waive that and go into session at a later time. But in this day and age, I just don't know why a letter like that can't come into our possession in the next half hour or so.
We could actually work that if she's able to get that to the probation monitor or one of us. We can actually get that distributed.
Okay. And for the record, this is Steve Sodergren.
Sorry,
Mr. Sodergren, you are your position, please.
I'm the executive officer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I don't hear any objection from anybody.
No.
And I also hear that that would be a good idea. So I'd like that to happen, please.
Right, Your Honor, just Max Disposti here, board chair. Just in references to what we have done in the past, yes, we will be very happy to have the letter before we convey today. I wouldn't suggest if there are any delays on any ways, because we're making a decision today. For us to reconvene, we'll have to recall the board coming together. That will not happen in the next 2-3 weeks, to say the least. So it will really delay the decision on your case. So I just want to, if you feel this is really important for the decision-making process, it's entirely up to you. So I'm not encouraging or discouraging. Just the process, I'm sharing how we have addressed it before. So, but if the letter comes to us, we'll be able to read it really quickly because it goes to our inbox right away. So.
Okay, Ms. Fell, can that be done in the next hour?
I will do my best, but if it can't, then I am satisfied with what I've presented with you today.
All right.
Perfect.
Sounds good. And finally, I invite first Ms. Liu and then Ms. Fell to make any closing statement to the board. Ms. Liu?
Your Honor, I submit.
Thank you. And finally, Ms. Fell, would you like to add anything?
No, sir, I am finished.
Very good. This matter is submitted subject to our conversation about Exhibit 2. Thanks, everybody. We are now off the record.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Disposti, what's your pleasure on in terms of any break?
Definitely, we need a break. I will reconvey at 11:15 this morning time. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back, everyone. You're joining us at the Board of Behavioral Sciences. Today is August 10. The time is 11:15. My name is Max Disposti, pronounced him as. I'm the board chair of the Board of Behavioral Sciences. And we're moving right away to our law administrative judge, John Liu. He's right here to take over the proceedings for today and to move on to our next petitioner. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Do I pronounce your name Combs or Coombs?
Combs.
Mr. Combs, good morning and welcome. Mr. Combs, did you have opportunity to watch one or both of the petition hearings before you?
I have viewed both of them this morning, yes.
Very good. I'm not going to go over any of the procedures that we'll be following. Before we go on the record, however, are there any additional documents or papers that you were intending to provide to board members?
No, sir. I've provided everything that I had.
All right. Ms. Teal, may we go on the record, please? And this morning, we're hearing the third of 4 petitions for reinstatement. The petitioner is Mr. Walter Combs. Mr. Combs is an associate social worker with number 86348. This has the agency's case number 2002-018-000424 and Office of Administrative Hearings case number 2021-070497. The petition is being heard before the Board of Behavioral Sciences, for which a quorum is present. It's the 10th of August, so we're convening at past the 11 o'clock hour. My name is Jonathan Liu. I'm an administrative law judge. The Office of Administrative Hearings assists many boards in conducting petitions such as this. Representing the Department of Justice is Ms. Mabel Liu. Ms. Liu is a Deputy Attorney General. As before, I'm going to invite Ms. Liu to start us off by providing a summary of this case, and we'll go forward from there. Ms. Liu?
Thank you, Your Honor. On or about August 24th, 2017, the board received an application for an associate clinical social worker registration from Petitioner, and on December 15th, 2017, the board denied said application, citing convictions of a substantially related crime and acts warranting denial of licensure. On or about March 29th, 2000, Petitioner was convicted of 1 felony count of voluntary manslaughter and was sentenced to serve 6 years in prison. The circumstances surround the conviction were that on or about November 23rd, 1998, Kern County Sheriff's deputies were dispatched to a call of a 2-year-old child not breathing. When they arrived on the scene, Petitioner stated that he was bathing the child when she fell and hit her head on the tub and stopped breathing. The victim was taken to a hospital where she was pronounced brain dead. Additionally, and prior to the 2000 manslaughter conviction, on or about February 10th, 1993, Petitioner was convicted of 1 misdemeanor count of having a concealed firearm on a person and was placed on probation for 36 months with terms and conditions. In response to the board's denial of his application, Petitioner appealed the decision and ultimately accepted the board's stipulated settlement for discipline, which was ordered on September 18, 2018, became effective on October 18, 2018, and placed Petitioner on probation for 5 years with standard and optional terms and conditions. The Petitioner has a tolling history. It has been tolled from October 18, 2018, which is the effective date, until January 17, 2019, as he sought clinical employment after being issued a registration after a 1-year and 2-month administrative delay. The petitioner's updated expected end date is January 16, 2024. This is the petitioner's first formal petition for modification and/or early termination of probation. With regard to the petitioner's probationary discipline and compliance, he is requesting early termination of probation and is not represented by an attorney. With regard to the condition of psychological evaluation, that was completed on August 17, 2019, with no duration noted. Tests administered included psychosocial history, mental status examination, clinical interview, Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory, 2nd edition, and the Substance Abuse Subtle Symptoms Indicators, 4th edition. Petitioner was found to be fit to practice with safety to the public while under, however, professional supervision, which was or is appropriately captured under the aforementioned stipulated settlement. He is in compliance with the psychotherapy condition. He is in compliance with supervised practice condition. He is in compliance with the reimbursement condition, and with regard to the standard terms and conditions, including quarterly reports, he is in compliance. Included in the hearing exhibits folder are the following documents submitted for the board's consideration in this matter. A petition for early termination of probation with attachments, a stipulated settlement and disciplinary order with statement of issues, a notification of hearing to the petitioner with a certification of registration history. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Liu. The documents you just identified, I'm marking collectively as Exhibit 1. Exhibit 1 is an evidence. Come, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give to the board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you very much. I invite you to make an opening statement to the board, after which there will be questioning.
I realize that this is a significant conviction history. Looking back, we see a misdemeanor gun charge, which was a result of what they called at that time inactive probation, because there was no violent intent at that time. It was just a young man still had the farm gun in the car when he ventured onto the city streets to complete a task. But later there was the other conviction which was a result of loss of life. And that there's no explanation to that. I can take up a bunch of time, which I won't do, talking about the circumstances surrounding that, and many of the lies that were told to police and other law enforcement at the time of that between myself and the mother. But the matter of the case is that it's a significant history, and I understand that. I've spent about 20 years looking at this. We're in 2021. We have 20 years of correcting myself and placing myself in better company, and educating myself, and submitting myself to God, and participating in church services, and fully examining who I was before and becoming, as it's called, a new creation. So it's you have, at the time of the beginning of my board probation, I have already completed many things that correspond to rehabilitation. And just a few, of course, at the beginning: voluntary participation of alcohol and drug courses, learning about myself a bit, personal spiritual growth, and church leadership. And I can look back over my life and identify that no alcohol or any illicit drugs have entered my body since prior to 2000. My sobriety date was April 13th, 1999. And so during my probation, I have participated in weekly therapy, and as it was already said, underwent a psychological evaluation. And during my practice as like a case manager, a mental health worker, leading up into becoming a registered associate clinical social worker, I've worked in alcohol and drug rehabilitation. I've worked in seriously mentally ill clients that are considered dual diagnosis. I've received training in trauma resiliency model, and in the last year, I don't have the exact date, but had completed the EMDR therapy based training. And that's kind of me in a nutshell. I conclude. I cannot hear you.
All right, thank you. At this time, Ms. Liu has a number of questions for you.
Thank you. I know this happened a while back in 1998, but I would like to know, was that child, your biological child?
No, ma'am.
And you do accept responsibility for the voluntary manslaughter conviction, correct?
I do.
Okay. And are there any current criminal or civil charges pending against you in this state or out of state at this time?
No.
Did you participate in any kind of counseling from that incident?
From that incident, I participated in some alcohol and drug rehabilitation that was it was available while I was incarcerated. It was not required. There was a program that people could attend that they were required. I was only able to go during some of the off time for some of the voluntary courses, but did complete a number of those. And while incarcerated, also there was the opportunity to attend self-help groups, like a combined 12-step meeting of drugs and alcohol, and also participate in completing the 12 steps.
So your participation in these group therapies were not court ordered, but rather it was something that you did on your own during the course of your incarceration in prison, correct?
That's correct. I was required to serve 85% of 6 years, and the first year of that was primarily in the county facility going through the court process. And then the next 4 years was in a state facility, and where I was able to kind of explore who I was and participate in some of those programs, attend spiritual weekly meetings, and kind of realize that I didn't want to be that person that would go to prison.
Okay. And after your release from prison, have you been in therapy?
After my release from prison, of course, there was 3 years parole. During that time, I was also attending junior college. I was attending church and was partnered with an elder in the church at that time, just to kind of be like an accountability partner, not exactly a therapist, but I found that helpful.
What did you learn from your experience other than you didn't want to be that person who would return to prison? You didn't want to be the person who was addicted to alcohol or drugs.
I learned that, well, the alcohol, the drugs, I learned that was not an effective coping skill. There's it's not ever, an effective coping skill. And it's just to stop trying to, in more recent therapy, that was required by the board. My first therapist, we worked on trying to stop being a hero. And looking back at that point, trying to protect people that also needed to be held accountable for their actions.
What triggered your behavior with regard to that incident in 1998?
That kind of leads right up into that hero, wanting to be the hero, wanting to take care of people and prevent them from having to experience their own consequences. Saying that I would place myself in position and take responsibility when that's not something I should have done. And looking at that, that's also very well fueled by codependency, alcohol, and substance abuse.
Can you give us just an overview of the incident? Because I don't have your file from 2000. What was your relationship with the child and with the child's mother?
I was dating the child's mother, and so I was the mother's boyfriend, and that was my relationship to the child. The incident, she came and retrieved me from another room, stating that her daughter was in the shower, not breathing. I had entered the shower and the child was in the shower. And I then pulled her out. She wasn't breathing appropriately. I couldn't get, I had CPR training, so I couldn't get her to breathe appropriately. I had instructed the mother to contact 911, and she indicated that she was scared of the consequences. And I initially had said, I'll tell them I was with her. You just contact 911. And 911 came, administered their assistance. They took her to a helipad area nearby at a fire station. And then when she and I were driving, following the investigating officer back to the house we had, we came up with the plan of, I will fully say I was there, I was bathing her, and this accident took place. And that's what we did. We both were incarcerated at that time for about a week. We were released, and there was no further contact with the law or investigators. And then in April of 1999, I was rearrested, and I had then started to learn just how serious my statements were. And I had a lawyers that came to me and stated that you're really going to have to take this plea bargain. It's the only way you're going to ever see the outside of the prison again. And at that point, I was trying to explain what he deemed your word against hers, and she's already talking to the district attorney. And he said, you don't have any other choice but to take this plea bargain. I'll try to get you 3 years, because if you don't, and we go to court and we go to trial, the jury is going to see these color photos of her autopsy, and then they're going to put you away forever. And he proceeded to show me color photos of this little girl's autopsy. And so the next time we went to court, I took a plea bargain, and I was finally in contact with my family, let them know all that went on, and they hired another attorney who attempted for the next almost year to get my plea bargain revoked so that I could go to court. I could tell my side of the story. And in the end, the judge that was over the hearing stated that I had not proven that I was misrepresented, so the plea bargain would stay, and they moved on towards sentencing. And then I was sentenced to 6 years at 85%. So something that stuck with me that Grandma had said was, sometimes God will knock you flat on your back just to make you look up. And so I used that as a foundation to rebuild my life and make some changes that would prevent me from ever experiencing something like that again, and ever making any of those type of mistakes. I hope that answered your question.
Okay, thank you. And finally, what support system do you have in place?
I have a church. I have a wife. When I left prison, I made what's called a geographical shift. I did not return to Elliott County. I moved to San Bernardino County with my mother, my maternal grandmother, and her husband at the time. Then I went to school. I stayed involved in church. I got my associate's degree, then on to my bachelor's degree, on to my master's degree, married. We foster dogs as they need to be adopted. We have a lot of things in place. My employment is good. I have two good supervisors who are 3 good supervisors. 2 of them are clinical, and they are aware of my probation. They're aware as to why, my historical background, and so there's a significant amount, I think, of support physically, emotionally, and spiritually in place to help me continue to be successful.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
You're on mute.
Thank you. I'm going to change the order and go reverse alphabetical. So questioning will begin by Ms. Vice Chair Christina Wong, please.
Thank you so much, Your Honor. And Mr. Combs, thank you so much for your appearance in the court. I recognize that, recounting, this experience must be really, really difficult. I want to just clarify. I want to make sure that this is not my microphone. Did you, I hear that, when you were talking about, what happened, that's incidents, that's, I heard that, your voice, shook a little. And so I want to just clarify from you, what is your, what do you feel, when you were just, answering the question and trying to recall the incidents?
You heard the voice cracks. It's not easy to recount that. I also understand that I placed myself in the situation. I grieve, I guess, feeling of grief. It's there's a 2-year-old life lost. She'd be 24 today. Who knows who she'd have been? And regardless of the mother's actions, she still lost a daughter that day. And there was a lot of life changed and altered significantly that day. So it's often a grief.
Yeah. So, so when you, so I think that's definitely, so are you saying that today's actually her birthday?
No, not today is her
Oh,
birthday.
not today, but yeah.
Today she would have been,
20.
I think, since 24, since she was 2, and this happened 23. Sorry, yeah, 23 years ago. So I guess she'd be 24 or 25.
Yeah, right. Okay. My apology for just that misunderstanding. I thought that, yeah, that is good because I think it would be very significant, if coincidentally, today's her birthday, but I'm glad that it's not. So, how do you deal with, the grief? And, it is very true, that this is a very significant, loss. So it has been 22 years, so tell us in this process, how you have been dealing with this.
Initially, it was a lot more difficult. They say time heals all wounds, but this did happen during November. So there's the anniversary, the holidays also. So that at that time I may get a little thin-skinned, but it's I deal with it by acknowledging it, accepting it. I may pray about it, and then, if need to, have supportive people that are aware and are willing to kind of process it with me and talk about it.
Okay, that's very good. So, so in the hindsight, now, after almost, more than 2 decades, so I'm sure that, that there's maturity taking place. And if you look back, what would you do differently?
If Walter now went back in time,
Yes.
If Walter now went back in time, I wouldn't be in that situation. The mother was quite toxic. I wouldn't have the codependency. But if I woke up the day of and found myself in that situation, I may attempt to change the entire day. If I woke up and realized what day it was, I would probably change the entire day, make a phone call to Child Family Services, explain how there's abuse going on in the house, there's substance abuse going on in the house, and that would completely change. If at the very least, I found myself being approached saying my daughter is in the bathroom and she's not breathing, I would at least, in the very least, not place myself and say, oh, I'll tell them that I was there. I would have her explaining what it was that happened to the investigating officer and not shield her, really just stand in front.
Right. Sounds good. So, maybe it's the last question, maybe it's superfluous, but what is your relationship with the child's mother now? Do you still
We have no contact. But she found me on social media maybe 7 years ago, and we had a short private message conversation about forgiveness and then she sent me a friend request, and I said, I think that we should not. We can forgive each other for our parts in the past, but take care. Bye-bye.
Very good. Thank you very much, Mr. Combs. I have no further question, Your Honor.
Yvette Willis, do you have any questions?
Your Honor, I do not.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wendy Strack?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Combs, I just have two questions, and thank you for being here and for your vulnerability and sharing your journey. I just have a question about the elements of probation that you're currently operating under. What kind of brings you to request the early termination? Is it particular elements of the program or the program as a whole? If you could just kind of let us know what you're seeking out of today and why.
The elements of probation almost mimic exactly the elements of pre-licensure. I'm clinically supervised. So the really, it's just the only extra was the psychiatric evaluation, which was completed, and the weekly therapy. And I guess I'm just shooting for weekly therapy mandated by the board to no longer be needed. When I applied for it, I used my Kaiser. After a few sessions, Kaiser said he does not meet medical necessity. So in order to continue, I see. Am I still transmitting? Okay, I see nods of heads. Okay, so in order to continue, I went ahead and I pay out of pocket for weekly service. And I do understand that that's kind of my cross to bear. So I'm hoping that knowing that as a registered associate clinical social worker, I will still be under the stipulations, to say, of all the supervision, all the co-signatures, and all the second or third set of eyes. I'm kind of hoping that I won't have to attend weekly therapy and be able to stop incurring that financial expense each week.
Okay. No other questions?
It looks like Wendy is stuck. On my end, it looks like she's lost connection.
Something happened to her, and it shows a yellow caution sign.
All right, I'll return to her when I can see her again. I'd like to go to Kelly Relisini, please.
Thank you. Mr. Combs, you're currently employed by Lutheran Social Services. Is that right?
That is correct.
Do you have contact with any children or youth?
Yes.
In what capacity?
In the capacity of clinical therapist, pre-licensed clinical therapist. Our program is contracted with Children Family Services to provide wrap around the family services to the family and the children of the family. They're in foster care system.
Okay. And the county is aware of your prior conviction?
Yes.
Okay. You mentioned in the cross-examination by the Attorney General, the plea bargain. How long between your indictment and the plea bargain was there?
So in April of 1999, the rearrest, and I think it may have been in June of 1999. I don't have that date, but I do know that there was at least one continuance request.
Cool. Okay. Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, I invite Mr. Christopher Jones.
Mr. Combs, thank you for being here. I can't imagine having to relive this over and over again is very pleasant. So I do appreciate your candor in regards to our line of questioning. I do have a couple of questions for you. To what extent, if any, did alcohol or drugs play in the incident that occurred in '98?
I think primarily it was a large extent. We would drink alcohol on a daily basis. I had not yet consumed any alcohol that day, I can remember, because I had driven her son to school, and we were to pick him up a little later in the day. But I do know that she had already consumed alcohol that day. And so it was a daily part of our lives, primarily alcohol and any other drugs, just a sometimes part of our lives.
But on that day during the incident, you were sober.
On that day at the incident, I had not consumed alcohol yet. No.
And then you talked about the recovery that started while you were incarcerated.
Yes.
Okay. And so, is your sobriety date? I can't recall if you said it or not.
April 13th, 1999.
Perfect. Thank you. And then I feel like a broken record with this question, but I didn't find any letters of recommendation in your packet either.
No, I didn't submit any.
Is there a reason why?
I felt that with 2 decades that have gone by of personal growth, there is obviously something that people could talk about just how great of a person I am. But it's really, I knew you guys wanted to talk to me, that you all wanted to talk to me, find out if I'm safe to be off probation. And so I know that the decision really falls on the shoulder of everyone here as to whether I get to end my probation now, or if there will be any adjustments to the stipulations of my probation.
Thank you, Mr. Combs. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Diana Herwick.
No questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Susan Friedman.
No questions, Your Honor, but thank you for being here, Mr. Coombs, and sharing your story. From what you've said, I understand this incident was not your fault, but you took the blame.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
That is frightening. And I'm just hoping that in your practice, if you ever come across anything like this, that you are well prepared to give some very, very helpful advice to people who are thinking of taking the blame for a crime that they did not commit. Anyway, thank you for being here. No more, I have no question.
Thank you, Ms. Friedman. Ross Ehrlich.
Thank you, Mr. Combs, for your testimony today. I have no additional questions. Thank you, Your Honor.
Finally, Chairperson Disposti.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions, and thank you for being here. Thank you.
At this point, I am going to again invite you each to make a closing summation. Ms. Liu first.
I will submit, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Liu. And finally, Mr. Combs, would you like to add anything to your testimony?
I appreciate the time that I have been given. I was recently asked by the clinical therapist that I see weekly, "Are you worried?" And I said, "Well, a little bit, but it really will be what it will be. You know, some people say it is what it is. I will present myself, and I await your decision. I thank you for this time that you all have given me and that you all have taken from your days to come and be part of this process."
Well, thank you very much. I know the board very much appreciates your appearing here today. We are now off the record. Mr. Disposti, how long a break, if any, would you like?
Well, Your Honor, I'm trying to look at the faces of my fellow board member. Obviously, I have an intention taking a break. It's up to you if you like just to go for 15 minutes and then go back, or maybe we can go 30 or for an attempted lunch. What would you like to do? I mean, do you need a longer break right now and then come back for our last petitioner? Or maybe we can take just 15 minutes instead of 10? I see that looks like good for everybody. Okay, then it's right now 12. Let's reconvene at 12:15 today's time, and we'll proceed with our next petitioner. Thank you so much, everybody.
Jody, if you're still there, I'd appreciate a count.
Oh, yes. I have 26 pages.
Thank you. Were you able to observe any of the previous 3 hearings?
Yes, I was, Your Honor. All 3 of them. I was present. Thank you.
Very, very good. And the packet that you've already submitted is pretty substantial. There's nothing that you were planning on adding today. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Till, let's go on the record, please. And good afternoon. We are hearing the 4th petition for early termination of probation. This is a matter before the Board of Behavioral Sciences. The petitioner is Donna Marie Gugliotta. She is a licensed marriage family therapist with number 32855. This matter has agency number 2002-017-002045. It also has Office of Administrative Hearings case number 2021-070-501. My name is Jonathan Liu. I'm an administrative law judge assigned from the Office of Administrative Hearings to assist this board. Present and representing the Department of Justice is Deputy Attorney General Mabel Liu. Petitioner Donna Marie Gugliotta is present and appearing on her own behalf. Ms. Gugliotta has indicated that she's observed the previous hearings, so unless she has any questions about the procedures, we will just go forward at this time, and we will invite Ms. Liu to provide board members with a summary of this case.
Good afternoon. On or about November 14th, 1995, the board issued licensed marriage and family therapist license number LMFT 32855 to petitioner, and said license was in full force and effect at all times relevant to the charges brought against her. Petitioner subjected her license to discipline in that she was convicted of a crime substantially related to the qualifications, duties, and functions of a licensed marriage and family therapist. On October 26, 2017, Petitioner was convicted of misdemeanor DUI after she was arrested for driving with a blood alcohol concentration of 0.15%. Specifically, on April 22, 2017, Petitioner was driving southbound on I-5 at La Paz Road in Mission Viejo when she applied her brakes while 3 to 4 feet on the right shoulder. CHP officers followed Petitioner and initiated an enforcement stop. During initial contact, officers smelled alcohol emitting from Petitioner and noted signs of intoxication. Petitioner failed the field sobriety tests and declined a preliminary alcohol screen. Upon her booking, Petitioner provided a blood sample, which upon testing indicated a blood alcohol concentration of 0.15%. The board took disciplinary action due to Petitioner sustaining a conviction, using alcohol in a dangerous manner, and failing to report the conviction within the required 30 days after her guilty plea. Petitioner's stipulated settlement is for 3 years and was ordered on January 14, 2019, and became effective on February 13, 2019. Petitioner's expected end date is February 12, 2022. The petitioner does not have a tolling history. This is Petitioner's first formal petition for modification and/or early termination of probation. With regard to the probationary discipline and compliance status, the petitioner is requesting early termination of probation and is not represented by an attorney. With regard to the condition of psychological evaluation, that was received on August 27, 2019. The psychologist saw the petitioner on July 9th and July 31st, 2019 at their office. It was a 3-hour interview and 2 hours of psychological testing. Tests administered were substance abuse, subtle screening inventory, 3rd edition, psychosocial history, mental status examination, clinical interview, Minnesota multiphasic personality inventory, 2nd edition, restructured form, and the Million clinical multi-actual inventory, 4th edition. Petitioner was found safe to practice with safety to the public with no additional recommendations or conditions. She is in compliance with the psychotherapy condition. She completed on April 18, 2019, her remedial education. She is in compliance with the biological fluid testing, that is abstaining from drugs and alcohol. She is in compliance with the dependency support program condition, and she has paid cost recovery in full. With regard to reimbursement, she is in compliance with regard to the condition of standard terms and conditions, including quarterly reports. She is in compliance. She has provided the following documents submitted for the board's consideration in this matter: a petition for early termination of probation with attachments with regard to her responses to questions 11, 12, and 13. She has included in there her Penal Code Section 1203.4 order for dismissal, her expungement of her driving under the influence misdemeanor conviction of October 26, 2017. This was expunged on November 7th, 2019. She has also included in there a September 1st, 2020 press release concerning her selection for 2020 Best of Laguna Niguel Award in the Family Counselor category by the Laguna Niguel Award Program. She has multiple continuing education units ranging from 2017 to 2020 on subjects related to substance abuse and recovery. She also has included a January 29th, 2021 letter and CV from her current therapist, Kay Blaney, Blaney, LMFT, and 7 letters of support. Thank you. Nothing further.
Thank you. The document you just identified, I'm going to mark collectively as Exhibit 1. Without objection, Exhibit 1 is in evidence. Now, Attorney, to you, Ms. Gugliotta, I'd like to administer an oath to you. Would you raise your right hand, please?
Yes.
And do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you are about to give to the board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Well, thank you very much. I invite you to begin with an opening statement. And please keep in mind that this board in particular does a very thorough job of reviewing petitions and attachments before it.
Okay.
So it's not necessary for you to go into any detail.
Okay.
You may proceed.
That sounds great. Yes, I'm not going to go over everything because I know everybody has my information. I really just want to thank everybody for seeing me today because I know that there was a long list and I'm just very grateful to be here. And I think the biggest message I want to give is that I'm very sorry that this happened and it was the biggest mistake of my life. However, it's turned out to be something that I'm grateful for because I've been able to, through my therapy, identify why it happened and make changes in my life that have been very significant, that are in my paper I sent to everyone to assure the board that nothing like this will ever happen again.
Thank you. Ms. Liu has some questions at this time.
Yes.
Thank you. How long have you been in therapy?
I have been in therapy. I actually was in therapy at the time I got the DUI. So I started therapy in 2016 voluntarily. I was in couples counseling voluntarily to work on my marriage, and I was also in individual therapy, and that was at the time of the DUI. And I continue to be in therapy today. So it's been over 5 years.
And how often do you attend therapy?
Right now, it's twice a month. It was once every week ever since February 13th, 2019, when I had to start the probationary period with the BBS.
And are you participating in AA or any 12-step programs?
Yes, I am, twice a month.
And how long have you been in attendance?
I've been in AA since 2017. Since the incident happened, I had to go after I attended the 3-month DUI program. So I've been continuing the entire time since 2017 current.
Have you ever led any of the meetings?
Yes, I have. I've been the secretary before when they were in person back in 2017. And I've also helped with the coffee and set up chairs.
Have you ever been a speaker?
No, I have not.
What have you learned so far from your therapy and your attendance at AA?
It's so much. I'll try and summarize it. What I've learned about myself about what happened is that I learned it through going through my character defects, believe it or not, which have to do with me, being a perfectionistic person and an overachiever in life, and having had things gone well my entire life, having to deal with the shame of what happened, and having to deal with in therapy forgiving myself because I was very shameful about being arrested. I'd never had any contact with the law. At the time I was arrested, I'd been in practice well over 20 years with an unblemished record. And I knew what this meant. It was a terrible scar that was going to be on my record. And so I've spent a lot of time, a lot of years in the therapy since the BBS initiated the discipline to really take a look at myself and my character defects and making significant changes. And realizing that I was using alcohol that night as a bad coping mechanism. And I've made changes in my life, such as ending my marriage. At the time, I had mentioned I was in couples counseling, and since then, my spouse and I are in the process of getting a divorce. We're getting a settlement. We're getting along, and it's a very positive thing for both of us. And I've made significant health changes because I didn't know it at the time, but I had a thyroid problem. So now I'm on thyroid medication and hormone replacement therapy, which is also helping with other conditions. And I just have a very positive life right now and a flourishing practice.
What is your sobriety date?
It's April 22nd, 2017.
And do you have a sponsor?
No, I do not.
Is there any particular reason why you've never sought to get a sponsor?
I had one. I had a sponsor in 2017, and I worked all the steps with her. So I have gone through that, and her name was Lauren. And at the end of it, we decided that we could disconnect because her sponsorship really wasn't necessary in order for me to stay sober.
What step of the 12 steps was the most difficult for you?
The most difficult was making amends. And basically it was, I have twin daughters that are 16 years old. And part of my shame and sort of forgiveness work with myself had to do with me dealing with what had happened and admitting that to my children. So that was hard, but it brought me closer to them.
And what was your most important step to you?
The most important step I can say, I think they were all important, but I think the most important step, believe it or not, was looking at my character defects. And the reason why, and doing a fearless moral inventory of myself, basically. I really had to take a hard look at myself and see, why did this happen and how did this happen to me? And the reason why I say that is because, like I said, one of my character defects I learned through AA, which is a wonderful program for anybody, whether they have an alcohol problem or not, is, you know, I thought everything was perfect in my life. And the truth is it wasn't. And so I was forced to look at what was not right in my life and make changes. And I'm really glad that I did. And I never thought I'd say this, but the DUI actually was a blessing in disguise.
And how has, other than the divorce and reconciling the situation with your children,
yes.
How have you changed your environment?
Let's see. What I do is I utilize the principles of AA every day, and really the way I live my life is 24 hours at a time. I've used AA to help manage stress and anxiety by relinquishing control, by waking up every morning and meditating, praying. I have a prayer bowl by my bed where if I have a stress or a worry or something that's bothering me, for example, regarding my settlement with my divorce, I will write it down on a little card that I have and I place it in the bowl. It's called a prayer bowl, and I turn it over. And the tools and skills that I learned in AA, in my opinion, can be used for anybody, and I think they're really life skills. And so what I've done over the years of my therapy and with the AA is adopted a frame of thought, a belief system, a new way of thinking. And now at any point in time, if I'm feeling stressed out or worried about something, I'll stop myself. I'll try and figure out what it is and decide whether I have control over it or not, whether it's in my sphere of influence or not. And if it's on the outside of something I can't control, I'll turn it over. And if it's on the inside of something I can do differently, then I will promptly take action. And one of the things, I'm sorry,
go ahead.
One of the things I've decided ever since the night of the DUI is that my bottom is one DUI. And what I mean by that is, in AA terms, you know, the elevator can stop at any floor with going down. And I'm pressing the button here, and alcohol has not been a part of my life since the DUI. And I have no room for alcohol in my life because I have my life has changed physically and emotionally without having it there.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you. We'll proceed in reverse order. Christina Wong, please.
Good afternoon, Miss. Let's see. Let me try your last name. Giulio. Oh gosh.
Okay, I'm going to.
Gugliotta. Yes, I know it's Italian.
It's
100%.
Gugliotta. Gugliotta.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. Yes.
Let me show off my Italian skills here. So
I know. Thank you for helping me, Max. So thank you so much for appearing to the board and really just explain, the efforts you try, you have had, for this, since you're put on probation. So I just have a couple questions. So let's say if the board grants you early termination, what does it mean to you?
Well, what it means to me is that the board would think that I did a good job and that I'm safe to practice. I think I've always been safe to practice, but I think the board's discipline gave me an opportunity just to take a hard look at myself as to why the incident did happen. And nothing would change in my life, really. I would keep doing exactly what I'm doing. I thought a lot about this, and I think the main thing that would change is that I wouldn't be required to drug test anymore. But I've done 73 negative drug tests, and every single one of them, and I've checked in every day for 2.5 years. And so really nothing will change. I'll continue with I lift weights, I work out, I hike. I'll continue with my prayer and meditation. I'll continue with my therapy with the wonderful therapist that I found. Her name is Kristen. She's helped me with the board discipline and also with navigating through my divorce. So not a whole lot's going to change, but I will be very happy if I am released 6 months early because it's been a financial burden. I added up the receipts and I've spent $30,000 total. I know that sounds like a lot, but it's really a true number. The drug testing alone was almost $6,000. The psych eval was $2,800. The therapy ongoing for 2.5 years was thousands of dollars. It's just an expense, and the monitoring that I pay every month to the board. So really the only thing is that it'll be a little bit of a financial lift.
And that's, really important, especially you are a business owner yourself. So I am thinking also, now you are in private practice.
Correct.
And so, one of the board's, major concern is really about, the consumer protection.
Sure.
So, in your private practice, so do you have any support that you receive or you provide, or people get together for like consultation group and that, to just really, get, when you have problems and be able to have a place to, to talk and discuss?
Yes. As a matter of fact, this past weekend in preparation for this meeting, I met with 2 of my trusted colleagues, 2 of them actually that wrote me character letters of reference, just to kind of dialogue about this and kind of what I was going through and anticipating it. And also those are the colleagues that I reach out to if I need case consultation.
That's wonderful. Yeah, so it looks like, it is more like a blessing, than, apart from the financial strain, but, you definitely gain, more than, that's, that you lost. So thank you so much, Miss Gugliotta.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. And I have no further question, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I invite Yvette Willis.
Thank you, Your Honor. I don't have a question. I just have a comment. I'm going to call you Donna.
Thank you.
Donna, thank you for thoroughly explaining all the rehabilitation that you've done, and we appreciate you coming today.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Wendy Strack.
Thank you, Your Honor. I also don't have any questions and just want to thank you for being here and for being open and honest with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Kelly Ranasinghe.
No question. I would just say that this is a very extensive petition.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Christopher Jones.
All right, thank you for being here, Donna. I won't try to say your last name either. I have no questions. I do appreciate as Kelly said, extensiveness of your packet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving to Diana Herwick.
I don't have any questions, Your Honor. Thank you so much for being here.
Susan Friedman.
I don't have any questions either, but I do want to say thank you very much for your candid and thoughtful testimony today. And I really do wish you very, very good luck. And I hope you stay on this path and you continue on this path. Thank you.
Thank you. I will. Thank you.
And Ross Ehrlich.
I also don't have any questions, and just echo all my fellow board members and thank you for sharing and being here today.
And finally, our chairperson, Mr. Disposti.
Likewise, I echo my fellow board members. No questions. Ms. Gugliotta, thank you so much for being here, for the work, and for sharing it with us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll close it up at this time, and I'll ask, but I know what the answer is going to be. Ms. Liu, do you have any closing remarks?
I do not, Your Honor. I submit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Finally, Ms. Gugliotta, you're free to add anything if you wish, or to merely submit it.
I just really want to thank everybody for getting me on the schedule, and for you guys being here, because I know it was probably an extra meeting. And I just want to guarantee you that nothing like this will ever happen again with me. And I look forward to having just a long-term practice still. And I just really want to thank you for your support and encouragement, and for being so kind about my packet. I didn't really know what to submit, but I think that's part of me being an overachiever, trying to cross every T and dot every I. But I'm aware of it now, which is the difference. So thank you for everything.
Okay, well, thank you very much. The board certainly appreciates your being here and your comments this afternoon. With that, we'll go off the record. And quick business matter. Jody, can I get a page count?
Yes, 20 pages.
Okay. Thanks very much, Jody. I don't know whether the board will need you to do any readbacks, but if you would maybe just leave at least a phone number if
Sure.
necessary.
Sure. Who do I give that to?
Why don't you email it to the?
I only have Diamond's email. How about if I just give you all my number and somebody can write it down?
I just wouldn't do that on a public. Yeah, we are broadcasting, so there might be people watching that we don't know. So
Jody, I'm going to give you my email for OAH.
Okay, thank you.
We have a recording of those procedures, the hearings, so I think we'll be okay.
I didn't get that. Are you telling me not to do it?
Oh, we have a recording of today's hearings.
We won't date her. Yeah, got it. That's great. Okay, Jody, you're off the hook. Thank you very much for your time today. The board appreciates it, as do I, of course.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. I didn't know you had a recording. So, Mr. Disposti?
Yes, I think I can speak for everyone if we can actually move straight forward to closed session. And then obviously the moderator will help us through making sure that we are in closed session. Moderator?
I will do that. And just to confirm, we will not be returning to closed session. You will adjourn out of or returning to open session. You will adjourn out of closed session, correct?
You're correct.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. I will stop the recording. Caesar, our webcaster, I'm moving you back to our attendee list.